The rain slammed against the window of my downtown LA loft, a relentless drumbeat that matched the pounding in my chest. I stood there, staring at the city lights blurred through the wet glass, my phone clutched so tight my knuckles ached. The text from Julian glowed on the screen. "We need to talk. Meet me at the Blue Ember, 8 p.m. No apology, no explanation, just that cold, sharp demand. My gut twisted. Julian Carter, the man I'd poured my heart and every last dime of my savings into, was slipping through my fingers like the rain outside. I could still smell the cedarwood cologne he wore when he'd lean over my desk, whispering promises about our future. Promises that now felt like lies. I tossed the phone onto the couch, its leather creaking under the weight. The loft was too quiet, the kind of quiet that screams. My eyes flicked to the framed poster on the wall. Starfall, the indie film I'd clawed my way through Hollywood to produce. Julian's face stared back, all smoldering eyes and perfect jawline, the breakout star I'd made him. 2 years ago, I was a nobody, scraping by as a production assistant, fetching coffee for egomaniacs. Then I met him at a dive bar in Silver Lake, his voice like velvet, his laugh like a melody. He was a struggling actor. I was a dreamer with a script and a vision. Together, we were unstoppable. Or so I thought. The Blue Ember was a sleek, upscale lounge, all dim lights and velvet booths, the kind of place where Hollywood's elite whispered deals over $20 cocktails. I walked in, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, feeling like an imposter in my worn leather jacket. The air smelled of citrus and expensive perfume, and the low hum of jazz piano curled around me. Julian was already there, sitting in a corner booth, his dark hair tousled just right, his navy suit hugging his frame like it was tailored by angels. But he wasn't alone. Across from him sat Ethan Voss, the pop idol whose face was plastered on every billboard from here to Times Square. Ethan's platinum hair caught the light, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. My stomach dropped. "Elliot," Julian said, his voice smooth but edged with something cold. He didn't stand, didn't even look me in the eye for more than a second. "Sit." I slid into the booth, my heart hammering. Ethan leaned back, one arm draped over the seat, his eyes scanning me like I was a script he didn't feel like reading. "So, you're the genius behind Starfall," he said, his tone dripping with charm that felt rehearsed. "Julian's told me a lot about you." I forced a smile, my jaw tight. "Funny, he hasn't mentioned you at all." Julian's eyes flicked up, a flash of guilt or maybe annoyance. "Elliot, don't start. This is business." Business. The word hit like a slap. I'd spent 2 years building Julian's career, maxing out credit cards, calling in every favor I had to get Starfall made. I'd edited scripts by candlelight when the power got cut, negotiated with shady investors, and held Julian's hand through every rejection. And now, here he was, calling it business while sitting next to a pop star who probably spent more on his shoes than I did on rent. "What's this about, Julian?" I asked, my voice low, steady, even though my insides were a storm. He leaned forward, his fingers tapping the table, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. "Ethan's team wants to partner with us for the Starfall sequel. He's interested in a lead role. It's a huge opportunity." I blinked, the words sinking in slow, like poison. "A sequel? We haven't even discussed a sequel. And you're already promising roles to—" I glanced at Ethan, who raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "To him. Elliot, you're being dramatic," Julian said, his voice sharp now. "Ethan's a draw. His fans will sell out theaters. This is how we get to the next level." I laughed, a bitter sound that made the couple at the next table glance over. "The next level? Julian, I sold my car to fund your audition tapes. I gave up everything for Starfall. And now you're sitting here, planning a sequel with him, without even telling me." Ethan cleared his throat, standing. "I'll let you two talk." He flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes and sauntered toward the bar, leaving a trail of whispers from nearby tables. Julian leaned closer, his voice dropping to a hiss. "You're making a scene. This isn't about you, Elliot. It's about what's best for the project. The project, not us. Not the nights we stayed up until dawn, laughing over cheap wine and dreaming about Oscars. Not the way he'd kiss me soft and slow, promising we'd conquer Hollywood together. My throat tightened, and I hated how much it hurt. You used my resources, Julian. My money, my connections, my life. And now you're handing it all to him. His eyes softened for a split second, and I thought maybe I'd reached him. But then he sighed, long and heavy, and looked away. You don't get it, do you? Ethan's the real deal. He's got the star power we need. You're talented, Elliot, but you're small time. You're not ready for this. The words cut deeper than I expected, each one a blade slicing through the fragile hope I'd been clinging to. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor, loud enough to make heads turn. You're wrong, I said, my voice shaking but firm. And you'll see it when I'm gone. I walked out into the rain, my heart a mess of anger and grief, the city lights blurring through tears I refused to let fall. Back at my loft, I collapsed onto the couch, the silence deafening. My phone buzzed, another text from Julian. I didn't mean it like that. Let's talk tomorrow. I deleted it without replying. The next morning, the city felt different, sharper, like it was daring me to fight back. I sat at my desk, surrounded by stacks of unpaid bills and Starfall scripts, my laptop glowing with an email I hadn't expected. It was from Mia Chun, a director I'd met at a film festival last year. She'd seen Starfall, loved it, and wanted to meet about a new project. A gritty, emotional drama that needed a producer with heart. My heart. I met Mia at a coffee shop in Echo Park, the air thick with the smell of roasted beans and fresh pastries. She was all energy, her dark eyes sparkling as she leaned across the table, her voice low and urgent. Elliot, your work on Starfall was raw, real. I want that for this film. It's about two guys, best friends, one's in love with the other, but it's complicated. There's betrayal, redemption, the works. You in? My pulse quickened. It was a chance to start over, to prove Julian wrong. I'm in, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. Mia grinned, sliding a script across the table. Good, because I've got someone I want you to meet. He's perfect for the lead. The door chimed, and I turned, expecting another industry type. Instead, my breath caught. It was Leo Navarro, the indie actor whose raw performance in a Sundance short had left me speechless last year. His dark eyes locked on mine, and he smiled. A quiet, knowing smile that sent a shiver down my spine. Elliot, right? He said, his voice warm, like honey over gravel. Heard you're the guy who makes dreams happen. I swallowed hard, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't name. Julian's words echoed in my mind. Small time. But sitting there, with Mia's script in my hands and Leo's gaze on me, I felt something shift. This was my shot. Not just to make a film, but to take back everything Julian had stolen. My confidence, my dreams, my heart. The next few weeks were a blur of late nights and strong coffee, the kind that burns your throat and keeps you wired. Mia's project, Shades of Us, was a beast, gritty, raw, and so emotionally dense it felt like it could break me. The script was about two childhood friends, Marcus and Sam, caught in a love they couldn't name, torn apart by secrets and ambition. Every line hit too close to home, mirroring the ache I still carried from Julian's betrayal. I threw myself into pre-production, renting a cramped office in Hollywood with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign outside that buzzed like a dying insect. The air smelled of stale cigarettes and ambition, and I loved it. This was mine, not Julian's. Leo Navarro was a revelation. He'd show up to meetings in ripped jeans and a faded band tee, his dark hair falling into his eyes, but when he read lines, the room went still. His voice could shift from a whisper to a storm in seconds, and every time he looked at me, I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. One night, we were alone in the office, the city humming outside, papers scattered across the desk. He leaned over my shoulder, pointing at a script note, his breath warm against my neck. You feel this story, don't you? He said, his voice low, almost a challenge. I nodded, unable to speak, the air between us thick with something unspoken. But Julian wasn't done with me. He started calling, leaving voicemails that ranged from charming to desperate. Elliot, come on, let's fix this. You know we're better together. I ignored them, but each one was a needle in my chest. Then came the news, splashed across every entertainment blog. Julian Carter and Ethan Voss, officially a couple, spotted kissing at a red carpet event for Starfall's streaming release. The headlines screamed about their chemistry, their star power, how Ethan was joining the Starfall sequel as Julian's love interest. My stomach churned. I'd built Julian's career, and now he was using it to prop up his new boyfriend. The betrayal burned, hot and sharp, but I shoved it down, focusing on shades of us. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Mia called me late one night, her voice tight. "Elliot, we've got a problem. The investor we were counting on just pulled out. Some bullshit about market risks. We're short $200,000, and without it, we're dead." I felt the floor drop out from under me. "What? How?" "We were locked in," she sighed, the sound crackling through the phone. "Hollywood, man. It happens. But I've got a lead on someone else. Private investor, big money, loves indie films. Problem is, he's particular. Wants to meet you tomorrow." The next day, I walked into a sleek office in Beverly Hills, the kind with glass walls and a view that made you feel small. The investor, Victor Lang, was a silver-haired man in his 50s, all sharp suits and sharper eyes. He leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. "I've heard about you, Elliot," he said, his voice smooth as whiskey. "Starfall was impressive for a first-timer. But this new project, it's a risk. Queer stories don't always sell." I bristled, my hands clenching in my lap. "They sell when they're good. And Shades of Us is better than good. It's real." He raised an eyebrow, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I like your fire, but I need assurances. I want to say in casting, and I want a meeting with your lead." My heart sank. Leo was perfect as Marcus, his raw intensity exactly what the role needed. But Victor's tone suggested he had someone else in mind, someone with a bigger name. I nodded, swallowing my unease, and left the meeting with a tentative yes, but no contract signed. That night, I met Leo at a dive bar in Koreatown, the air thick with the smell of fried dumplings and cheap beer. He slid into the booth across from me, his eyes searching mine. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, his voice soft but teasing. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Just investors. They want to control everything. I'm scared they'll try to replace you." Leo leaned forward, his fingers brushing mine on the table, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through me. "They can try," he said, his smile fierce. "But I'm not going anywhere. This story means too much to me, and so do you." My breath caught, the world narrowing to the warmth of his hand, the steady rhythm of his voice. For a moment I forgot about Julian, about the money, about everything. But then my phone buzzed, shattering the moment. It was a text from Julian. "Heard about your new project. Good luck finding funding without me. You'll crash and burn, Elliot." Anger flared, hot and bright. I showed Leo the text, expecting him to laugh it off. Instead, his jaw tightened, and he grabbed my phone, typing a reply before I could stop him. "He doesn't need you. Watch him shine." He hit send, then looked at me, his eyes blazing. "He's wrong about you, Elliot, and we're gonna prove it." The next day, Victor called me back, his tone all business. "I've got a condition for the funding," he said. "I want a screen test with another actor, someone with more marketability." My heart sank as he named his pick, Ethan Voss. The screen test was set for a Friday, the kind of LA day where the sun feels too bright, like it's mocking you. The studio was a cold, cavernous space, all concrete and cables, the air heavy with the chemical tang of fresh paint. Leo stood off to the side, his arms crossed, his jaw tight as he watched Ethan Voss saunter in, all charisma and calculated charm. Ethan's platinum hair gleamed under the lights, his smile a weapon he wielded with precision. Julian was there too, hovering near the director's chair, his eyes flicking between me and Ethan like he was waiting for a bomb to go off. Mia ran the test, her voice steady but her hands fidgeting with her pen. A tell I'd learned meant she was nervous. Ethan read Marcus's lines, his delivery polished but hollow, like a pop song with no soul. Leo went next, and the difference was night and day. His voice cracked with raw emotion, his eyes burning with the pain of a man who loved too hard and lost too much. The crew went silent, the kind of silence that follows a lightning strike. I caught Julian's gaze, and for a moment, I saw something like regret in his eyes. But then Ethan laughed, loud and sharp, breaking the spell. "Not bad," he said, clapping Leo on the shoulder. "But let's be real, you need a name to sell this." Leo's smile was tight, dangerous. "And you need talent to act in it." The room froze. Julian stepped forward, his voice low. "Let's keep this professional, yeah?" But his eyes were on me, not Leo, and I felt the weight of everything unsaid between us. After the test, Victor pulled me aside, his expression unreadable. "Ethan's the safer bet," he said. "His fans will eat this up. Leo's good, but he's a nobody. You want my money, you cast Ethan." I felt like I'd been punched. "Leo's the heart of this film," I said, my voice shaking. "You take him out, you kill the story." Victor shrugged, already turning away. "Your call, Elliot. But no Ethan, no funding." That night, I sat on the fire escape of my loft, the city sprawling below me, a glittering mess of dreams and broken promises. The air was cool, tinged with the faint smell of exhaust and jasmine from a neighbor's garden. Leo showed up unannounced, climbing the metal stairs with a six-pack of beer and a look that said he wasn't leaving until we talked. He sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his shoulder against mine. "You're not going to let them take this from us, are you?" he asked, his voice soft but fierce. I sighed, the sound heavy in the quiet night. "I don't know, Leo. Without the money, there's no film. But casting Ethan, it feels like selling my soul." He turned to me, his eyes searching mine. "Then don't. We'll find another way. You built Starfall from nothing. You can do this too." His faith in me was a lifeline, but it also terrified me. What if I failed him, failed Mia, failed myself? I looked away, my throat tight. Julian said I'd crash and burn without him. What if he's right? Leo's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through my own, steady and warm. "He's not right. He's scared. Scared you're gonna outshine him. And you will, Elliot. I see it. Mia sees it. The only one who doesn't is you." The moment stretched, the city humming below us, the distant wail of a siren cutting through the night. I wanted to believe him, wanted to lean into the warmth of his hand, his words, his everything. But the fear was there, clawing at me, whispering that I wasn't enough. The next day, I got a call from an unexpected source. Sarah, Julian's old agent, who dropped him after he started chasing Ethan's spotlight. She'd heard about Shades of Us through the grapevine and wanted in. "I've got a client," she said, her voice all New York hustle. "Small time now, but she's got money and a soft spot for stories like yours. Meet her tonight." The meeting was at a rooftop bar in West Hollywood, the kind of place where the drinks cost more than my groceries. Sarah's client was Tessa Monroe, a former actress turned philanthropist. Her silver hair swept into an elegant bun, her eyes sharp but kind. She listened as I pitched Shades of Us, my voice shaky at first but growing stronger with every word. When I finished, she leaned back, sipping her martini. "I like you, Elliot," she said. "You've got heart, and I've got $250,000 that says you're worth betting on. But I want a meeting with your team. No suits, no bullshit. Just the people who make the magic." I walked out of that meeting feeling like I could breathe again. Tessa's money meant we didn't need Victor, didn't need Ethan. But it also meant the pressure was on, failure wasn't an option. I called Leo and Mia, and we met at the office, the neon sign outside buzzing louder than ever. Leo read the script again, his voice filling the room, and Mia sketched out storyboards, her hands flying across the page. For the first time, it felt real, like we were building something unstoppable. But Julian wasn't done. He showed up at my loft the next night, uninvited, his eyes bloodshot and his suit wrinkled. "You're really doing this without me?" he asked, his voice raw. "You're throwing away everything we built for some indie pipe dream?" I stood in the doorway, my heart pounding but my resolve steady. "You threw it away first, Julian. You chose Ethan. You chose fame. I'm choosing me." He stared at me, his breath hitching, and for a moment, I thought he might cry. But then he turned and walked away, the sound of his footsteps fading into the rain. Production on Shades of Us began in a whirlwind. Every day a mix of chaos and magic. The set was a converted warehouse in East LA, the air thick with the smell of sawdust and coffee. the sound of crew chatter and clattering equipment filling the space. Leo was a force, his performance as Marcus so raw it left everyone breathless. Mia directed with a fierce precision, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Tessa's funding gave us freedom, but the pressure was relentless. Every shot had to be perfect, every scene had to sing. I was in my element, coordinating, problem-solving, pouring my heart into every detail. But Julian's shadow lingered, his words, crash and burn, echoing in my quiet moments. One night, after a grueling 14-hour shoot, Leo found me sitting on a crate outside the warehouse, the city lights flickering in the distance. My hands were shaking, not from the cold but from the weight of it all. He sat beside me, his shoulder brushing mine, the faint scent of his citrus cologne grounding me. "You're killing it, you know," he said, his voice soft but sure. "This film, it's gonna change things. For you, for me, for everyone who sees it." I looked at him, his face half lit by the streetlights, his eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my chest ache. "What if it's not enough?" I whispered. "What if I'm not enough?" He reached for my hand, his fingers warm and steady. "You're more than enough, Elliot. You're the heart of this." And he hesitated, his breath catching. "You're the heart of something else, too." Before I could process his words, he leaned in, his lips brushing mine, soft at first, then deeper. A kiss that tasted of hope and hunger and everything I'd been too scared to feel. The world fell away, the city noise fading to a hum, the weight of Julian's betrayal lifting for the first time in months. When we pulled back, my heart was racing, my breath uneven. Leo smiled, a quiet, private thing, and I knew I was falling hard, fast, and without a safety net. The next day, the set was electric, the chemistry between Leo and his co-star, a quiet actor named Ryan, crackling through every scene. But off-camera, Leo's eyes kept finding mine, a silent promise that kept me grounded. We were close to wrapping principal photography when the news broke. Starfall's sequel was tanking. Ethan's casting had backfired, his performance panned as wooden and unconvincing. Julian's name was barely mentioned, overshadowed by Ethan's failure. I should have felt vindicated, but all I felt was a hollow ache. I'd loved him once, after all. The premiere of Shades of Us was set for a small festival in Santa Monica, the kind of event where indie filmmakers and starry-eyed dreamers collide. The theater was packed, the air buzzing with anticipation, the faint smell of popcorn and perfume mingling in the dark. I stood at the back, my heart in my throat, as the lights dimmed and the film began. Leo's face filled the screen, his voice breaking as Marcus confessed his love to Sam, the words raw and real. The audience was silent, then erupted in applause as the credits rolled, the sound washing over me like a wave. Afterward, at the after-party, the rooftop was alive with laughter and clinking glasses, the ocean breeze cool against my skin. Leo found me, his hands slipping into mine, his smile brighter than the city lights below. "We did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You did it." Before I could respond, I saw him, Julian, standing at the edge of the crowd, his suit rumpled, his eyes locked on me. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, the star I'd built now just a man. He approached, his steps hesitant, and I braced myself. "Elliot," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was wrong. About everything. I saw the film, it's incredible. You're incredible." I waited for the anger, the satisfaction, but all I felt was pity. "You made your choice, Julian," I said, my voice steady. "And I made mine." Leo's hand tightened in mine, and I turned to him, the noise of the party fading. He leaned in, his lips meeting mine in a kiss that was bold, unapologetic, a declaration to the world. The crowd around us gasped, then cheered, but I barely heard them. All I felt was Leo, his warmth, his strength, the promise of something new. Julian watched, his face a mask of regret, and I knew he'd carry that moment forever, the moment he realized what he'd lost. As Leo pulled back, his eyes shining, I felt it. The weight of my past lifting, the future stretching out before me, bright and uncharted. Shades of Us went on to win awards, to spark conversations, to change lives. But that night, on that rooftop, with Leo's hand in mine and the city sprawling below, I realized the real victory wasn't the film. It was me, finding my worth, my voice, my heart. And no one, not Julian, not Hollywood, could take that away.